Alright everyone, for my next review I'm going to finish this series up and do 976 Evil 2, The Astral Factor from 1992. The film was directed by Jim Wynorski, who's done other works in horror such as Chopping Mall in 1986, Sorority House Massacre 1990, and House 4 in 1992. So he's had some hits like Chopping Mall and some misses like House 4 and this film, for sure. This film stars Patrick O'Brien, who was in the first 976 Evil, reprises his role as Spike. Debbie James, never really heard of her, did a little research. She won Star Search in 1990. I'm assuming that was one of the catalysts of getting this role. And she's been in some other stuff through the years. Nothing major, though. Special guest appearance by Bridget Nielsen. She's only in the film for a couple minutes. And the villain is played by someone named Renee Asa, who I also never really heard of. So there will be spoilers in this review. So if you've seen my first review of 976 Evil, you know I really wasn't a big fan of that film. Now I've seen worse horror films, but just the concept of these films really doesn't do it for me, and they seem very dated. And this film continues along that same path, except for the acting takes a huge step down, and it's just even less fun than the first movie. Not even fun in terms of just a cheese factor. Nothing humorous, really nothing original, and just, yeah, not very good. So the film starts off, and 1 minute into the film, you got this college co-ed taking a shower. Of course, nobody else is around or anything. She's taking a shower alone after going for a swim. She gets in there, you got this cliche scene where there's like lights flickering, and she's, who's there? Who's there? Please stop messing with me type scenes. Then you're introduced to the villain, the professor. He just appears out of nowhere. There's a chase scene where she's running around naked. She actually does manage to put a shirt on during this time, and underwear, but still she's running around basically half naked throughout this scene, I'm sorry. And for the first 5 minutes, you just got this chase scene where he's chasing her around the school. He gets to a point on a theater stage, knocks her down, knocks a spike off the top of the ceiling, comes down, stabs her in the chest, blood squirts up. By this series standards, it wasn't a bad kill, but still overall nothing special here. While the kill's going on, you have a drunken janitor up in the auditorium stand sleeping. He wakes up and witnesses the murder. I recognize the bum janitor. He played the similar role in They Live as the homeless bum. You'll recognize him if you've seen the film They Live. So he witnesses the murder, and then the film introduces you to Robin, Debbie James's character. She plays the police chief's daughter, and she also what used to be the professor's prized pupil, teacher's pet. She used to work in his office part-time, and apparently he had this big crush on her, and she had a lot of respect for him because she's all shook up that he's accused of the murder. She's like, oh no, it can't be him, So, and when she's introduced to him, he touches her and she just falls flat on the floor, and she has this vision of him committing the murder. So apparently they got some mental bond with each other. The film touches on this a couple times. It really doesn't go anywhere with it. It's just somehow she has some mental bond to where she can see flashbacks and visions of in the future of how the murders are going to happen. But this only happens twice, so I'm not even really sure why they put it in there. It's not like they really go anywhere with it. Then you're reintroduced to Patrick O'Brien's character, Spike. It shows him riding into town on a motorcycle. Reprises his role as type of like the hood badass role. They're playing some Western themed music in the background as he's riding into town to be the hero. He ends up stopping at a diner. That's where he meets Robin. Goes over, tries to smooth talk her a little bit. She gets up and leaves. He finds the 976 horoscope card. And also in the beginning as well, when the murder happened, they don't actually go there, but you just kind of have to imply that the professor's been calling this horoscope card, similar to the first film when he's starting to lose his mind and commit murders. So then they go back to the police station, and they're interviewing the professor, and they're trying to get him to confess to the murder. Of course he won't, but they have a witness, the bum janitor. So talk to the cops for a while, and he says he wants to make his one phone call. So, of course, with his one phone call, he calls the 976 horoscope number. He basically just says, hey, I've done everything you asked. Please give me the power. So the number's like, okay, you've been granted the power. The bum janitor's in protective custody now. They take the professor back to his cell. And there's where you get the first astral projection. He's able to astral project out of his body. That's the power he's given. So his physical self is still in the cell, but he's able to astral project out into the real world and commit these murders. So, like I said, the bum janitor is in protective custody. He astral projects out, kills a cop that's supposed to be guarding the room, takes the bum janitor out to the highway, holds him there. There's a semi-truck coming and hits him, and his body just explodes. You don't really get to see anything, just some splatter, like pieces going everywhere. Not really a good kill, but that's the first murder there. Then they're back in the jail cell. Well, actually, they're in a conference room, but back at the jail, the prosecuting attorney, this woman, she tells them, I'm going to make sure you get the chair. And he's like, oh, you don't have no witnesses since the bum janitor just died the night before. So the prosecuting attorney makes some threats to him, and then he tells her, oh, drive safely. Have a good day, drive safely. So right there that something's going to happen with her driving. At the same time, this Robin's back at school, and she has another one of her fall down, get knocked out flashes that somebody ends up dying in a car wreck. She tries to call her dad, the police chief, and tell him, but of course, he just thinks that she's going crazy or whatever. He doesn't listen to her. So then she's on the highway going, and the prosecuting attorney lady, she's in the car, and she has a car phone, and that's where she gets the first call, saying, on a stormy night, like the little slogan, I forget the slogan, but the 976 evil horoscope number calls her car phone. Then you got the voice of the professor coming on, and then you got him on the radio, and they talk about how she's going to die, and of course the windows roll up, the door's locked, she can't get out, she's driving down the highway, she's hitting all these cars. Robin's character is also driving on the highway, Debbie James' character Robin. Then her flashes start to come true. She sees the lady she's seen in her flash, which is the prosecuting attorney, saying, help me, help me. And then she ends up running her car off into some electric transformer, and you get a big explosion. Again, you really don't get to see anything. Just, routine run-of-the-mill death. Don't get to see nothing. So obviously this Robin character, she's even shook up since she witnessed this lady go in and to the transformer and die. And she goes back. She's watching a horror movie now with her friend. Her friend's watching a zombie movie. She keeps trying to switch it to this Christmas movie. Then the professor somehow astral projects actually onto the TV where he's playing this spokesperson, trying to sell a remote control, like a video remote control. So he sucks her friend into the movie. And at first when he sucks her friend in, it's the Christmas movie that Robin wanted to watch, this lighthearted Christmas film. And I guess this was probably my favorite scene of the film, just because it had a little originality to it and it was kind of cool. There was one cool little line where this little girl, they're about to the father's holding her up in this black and white Christmas movie next to a Christmas tree. And then there's like a little Christmas bell up there, but the little girl, she rings the bell and then she says, every time you ring a bell, a zombie takes a soul to hell. And then the people in the Christmas movie, they go from these nice, lighthearted, happy-go people to these zombies. And then they turn around and they start coming after her. But the zombies don't actually get her. She ends up getting stabbed to death by the professor and murdered. So then Robin comes back into the room from making popcorn and sees her friend stabbed to death on the floor. The professor astral projects into the room with Robin and picks up the phone and makes a phone call that sounds like her voice saying, I just murdered my best friend. So this whole time, Spike, he's doing his own investigating on the professor. He breaks into his house, and you got some of the worst special effects I've ever seen in this scene where he breaks into his house. The freezer opens, and stuff starts coming out after him. Like, frozen pizzas and bags of food, and just ridiculous, terrible. Then you go over, and this is arguably one of the worst effect scenes I've seen in my life, where conveniently, there's a whole rack of machine guns on the wall, so this AK-47 takes a 360 turn out. I mean, it looks so bad. like a bad 3D effect almost. And it turns out it starts shooting at Spike. And of course, it misses and it has like an endless clip. Spike ends up getting the gun and he starts shooting stuff. And just, again, like 27-year-old movie, 26, 27-year-old movie. Some places say it came out in 91, but I think it was released in 1992. So I don't want to be too hard on the effects, but I've seen Jim Wynorski do more with less. Chopping Mall, he did a great job. I know he's capable of better than this. It was really bad. And if you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. Bad to the point that it was almost funny because it was so bad, but then again, not really there. It was in between being so bad it's funny and just bad. So you might find it humorous. I found it a little humorous, but certainly nothing quality at all. So basically from this point, you go to the final act of the film, which Spike goes to the shop, meets Bridget Nielsen's character, because they assume he's getting out of his jail cell and committing these murders. They know he is. So that's where the astral projection comes in again. Bridget Nielsen talks a little bit about it, and they realize that the only way to stop him is to kill his physical body. So they devise a plan. And this is, the final act was terrible for the reasons I'm about to get into. Somehow they devise a plan where Spike shows up at the jail cell and starts talking trash to him, so he'll astral project out and then chase him while he's on his motorcycle. So the professor astral ejects out into the semi-truck. Spike's on his motorcycle. He goes driving off. The professor's in the truck. He goes chasing after him. Robin's character sneaks into the jail. She realizes a bunch of police officers have been murdered. She gets a gun. She goes to try to track them down. Now, this is the most ridiculous part of the film to me, where for some reason the plan is that Spike stops on his motorcycle, lights some sticks of dynamite, turns it around, and goes driving straight into the semi-truck. Now, this is his astral self, so you can't kill him with the dynamite. So why the plan was to use dynamite and blow up the truck instead of just running down the highway so he can't catch you, so she can go in and kill him, I have no clue at all, like what the point of the scene was. But he turns around, he goes straight towards the truck, and as he gets close, he throws the dynamite at the trailer, and the trailer blows up, and he goes under the trailer. It ends up killing him. You don't know that right away, but he does end up dying from this crash. So you go back to Robin's character, and she has a gun, and she opens his jail cell, and she goes in to shoot him, but he's under the blanket, so she wants to go over, and she pulls the blanket off, and of course, he's awake, he takes the gun, and she makes a beeline from the jail cell out to her car. Like, she doesn't stop, she doesn't hesitate, she doesn't hide. She goes straight from the jail cell out to her car. And mind you, this is now his physical self. This is no longer his astral self, the professor. So she gets in the car and she drives to this cliff, which the film doesn't say it, but I'm implying this is where her and Spike were supposed to meet up after this master plan they designed goes down. So she gets there, and as soon as she pulls in, the trunk opens, and the professor was in the trunk. Now, mind you, she went straight from the cell to the car and drove to the cliff. There's no way his physical body could have gotten into the trunk. But somehow he was in the trunk. It makes no sense at all. Just ridiculous. So he's in the trunk. He gets out. It flashes over to Spike, and you see his body's on the ground. He makes one final movement. Then he dies, and he astral projects out like the professor's been doing the whole time, and then he disappears. So you flash back to Robin and the professor. He's holding her on the cliff, and he's like, Robin, we're going to be together forever. I love you. You need to love me. Like, your life or my love or your love. What do you want? Spike shows up. He astral projects behind the professor, who now is in his physical form. And then he punches him in the face and knocks him off the cliff. That's the death of the professor. Like that. Almost as lame. Honestly, I'm going to say even more lame than the death in the first film of Hoax, where he just comes up and pushes him out a window. This time he just punches him in the face and knocks him off a cliff. Then you got the cheesiest scene, one of the cheesiest scenes I've ever seen in horror films, where then Spike's character kisses Robin and then turns into this aurora of colors, floats up into the sky, and goes off like a firecracker. Like, it's pretty ridiculous. Like, I was just like, wow, again, like, just, oh, man. Terrible. So Spike's dead, obviously. He's gone. Police show up. The police chief and, her father's walking her over, and Robin's like, oh, Dad, the professor killed all these people, and Spike came and saved me, and then this other cop comes along, and then he's like, Spike's dead. He took a dive, about an hour ago in a motorcycle accident over on highway whatever. Like, Spike's dead. How did the professor's body end up on the cliff? And she tries telling him, but nobody believes her. Then these two people in the ambulance take her away, and you assume they think she's crazy. They think she did all this, and they're taking her off to the loony bin. And then as they're taking her off to the hospital, it pans over to a phone booth, and then the phone starts ringing again. So more sequel bait. Thank God they didn't take the sequel bait and the series ended here, because this was pretty terrible. And again, these films just seem so dated with the concept of the phones and the number. Just not a very good set of films. I rated the last film, I believe I said 1.5 to 2 stars. And on this film, I'm gonna go 1 to 1.5 stars. I mean, it's borderline rant worthy. It's just bad. I guess my expectations weren't high, but I did read a review where I think maybe on the Wikipedia page it says that this film critically was not well received upon release. I understand that. But then there's somebody on there that said they thought the film was underrated. Some magazine or somebody said something like that. So I thought, okay, maybe this film will be better than the original, but it wasn't. I mean, it was terrible. Just didn't like it. So I'll say 1.5. I think 1 means it's absolute total rubbish that it's just almost impossible to sit through. This is just because of it had maybe like 2 decent scenes in it. I'll give it the 1.5. I think even if somebody likes this film, they still can't rate it over 2. So I don't know. 1.5 would be my review. So that's it. That's my review for 976 Evil 2, The Astral Factor. Thanks for watching.